Well, it's official. The New Jersey Devils will pick second in this year's NHL draft, and things might get a little interesting from here on out. I said in the last episode that we don't need Shane Wright. However, we could potentially now draft Slafowski or maybe Nemish, or maybe we trade for Kevin Fiala. Oh boy, there's so much to talk about. I'm going to need some help breaking all this down. So, welcome Jersey Joe back to the show to help me out. We recorded this episode shortly after the draft lottery concluded, so buckle up. We have a lot of opinions to share.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Elliott scores! Oh, Steven stepped up, nailed it. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here on the Locked On Network. I'm your host, college hockey play-by-play announcer, and also Devils writer for Pucks and Pitchforks, Trey Matthews. Joining me alongside is my man, Jersey Joe. He appeared on the show a couple episodes ago with the Brat Pack. Joe, great to have you back, dude.
Thank you, guys, and welcome back, Trey. It's an interesting night, I must say.
Interesting night is an understatement. The Devils will get the second overall pick in the draft that will take place in July. How are we feeling, Jersey Joe?
Feeling pretty good, actually. I mean, I'm feeling like the odds are in our favor to actually keep the pick than rather trade it.
You see, I always said the higher the draft pick, then the more leverage we'll get in terms of just trying to maybe get a decent player who could try to shapeshift our organization, because now a bunch of teams could be at our mercy for that second overall pick, quite honestly. So yes. I feel as though this works into the favor of Tom Fitzgerald and the front office, because who's to say that we can't, get a decent player? And speaking of which, I don't know how much information you got on this, but what's the situation with the Minnesota Wild right now?
You know what? I mean, the Minnesota Wild, they're going to be cap crunched to the bitter end, to the point that they're going to have to maybe possibly lose a guy. But is that guy being Kevin Fiala worthwhile? I don't know if he's worth a second overall pick, let alone, Minnesota having to offer maybe a 2023 first rounder. They're going to have to pay like Brandon Hagel type assets to really get that.
See, and my thing is, like, I feel as though since from now we have a solidified second overall pick, I feel as though the ball is on our court, or the puck is in our rink, whatever the case you want to say. And I just feel
it's in our end.
Maybe I know you say hold on to it, but maybe it's not just the Minnesota Wild organization. Maybe we should explore other venues, because we do need a decent goalie. But the thing is like, those come with a price. Just saying.
In other words, let me put it this way. Would you really mortgage your house just to try and get that really, really nice mansion? I mean, in theory, it sounds good, but what about the upkeep? And will it really pay off the dividends?
You see, it's just, I'm a little conflicted right here, because if I'm being honest with you, I didn't think the New Jersey Devils would get the top pick, one of the top picks. I thought they would be like number 5 or something like that, where it would be a little easier to like let it go kind of thing. But now we have the second overall pick, and it's just like things start to change a little bit, because quite honestly, I was hoping that maybe the New Jersey Devils could get the first overall pick. But I said in the last show, I don't think we really need Shane Wright all that much. Like, I'm not really, if we don't draft him or if we don't get him, I'm definitely not going to lose any sleep over it.
Yeah, to be quite honest, like, I was thinking to myself last night, I highly doubt we win first overall, and I think that we would at best be number 2, 5, 6, or 7. But for me, second is the next best thing. You're waiting on the slim pickings of the first team in front of you, which is Montreal. And Montreal absolutely deserves it to have first overall. And I have respect for the Canadiens du Montréal au Quebec.
I want to talk a little history with you, because you said before the recording, you have some historical data that you want to share in terms of the Devils and the draft. What do you want to share?
So back in 2017, people said, oh, there's no Connor McDavid, there's no Austin Matthews in this draft. But guess what? There was a defenseman named Cale Makar who back then had a draft year star probability of 13% in his draft year. But then his draft year NHL probability became a 56%. And the star probability became 99%. And NHLer probability, 99%. And guess what? The Devils could have ended up getting Cale Makar, but he went to the Colorado Avalanche in the top 5. I think it was 4th overall. But where I'm leading with this one, hot take. The Devils do not need another center.
Yes, thank you.
The Devils do not need another bleeding center.
Guys, we have Jack Hughes. We have Nico Hischier. Jesper Bratt can play center if need be. We don't need another center. We got Dawson Mercer. We got so many other players who could play the center position. We do not need a freaking center. We don't need it.
And guess what? Nico Hischier had the 67% of star probability and a 99% NHLer probability in that draft. And he became the first overall pick. And Riley Walsh had the next best below Nico Hischier at 41 and an NHLer probability 79 out of 100 to be an NHLer. So what does that mean, everyone? That means you do not surrender on possible picks that you're going to make. And back to the defenseman, I know there's a lot of people who underlook Central Europe and Russia. I'm a big fan of Central and Eastern Europe and Russia. And where do I stand with this data? You're looking at Šimon Nemec from Slovakia. He plays for HK Nitra in the Slovak professional league, their top tier league, and he's been battle tested from every age group, the U16s, U18s. He's even played on the Olympics and got a bronze with Juraj Slafkovský. Sure, we could go for Slafkovský. He's another idea, but the Devils really need a right-handed defenseman to complement Luke Hughes on the other side of the ice. Why do I love him so much? Because he's fast, energetic, brings that offensive defenseman on the right side that could be a 4th or 5th forward type guy and can play two-way game. So if you really want to increase your odds of playing defense and winning, you got to look at Nemec. Why? Draft year star probability, 57%. Draft year NHL probability, 94%. Star probability is 57% out of 100. That's the 4th best. That's the 3rd best in this draft class, along with a 94% NHLer probability rating out of 100. So he's destined for greatness.
So here's something I got to ask you before we continue. So you listed off a boatload of great options, and I agree with you. Like, there's so much that we can take away from this draft. We can look at overseas. We can look at here in North America. There's so many great options the Devils could choose from. And obviously with us having the second pick, I think it's guaranteed that Shane Wright is going to go number 1 to the Montreal Canadiens. Absolutely.
Everyone's going to be having poutine and Moosehead beer back in Quebec. There's no problem with that. I know Canada's probably going on a frenzy right now. They're probably all going streaking Quebec right now because he brings them not only national pride, but he brings a sense of a future great one for them since they lost Guy Lafleur. But that's a long way for them to see if he can prove to be of that ilk. But I'm not trying to put too much hype on the guy. But back to us at number 2. I mean, we have a lot of other guys out there, star probability wise. And I think a lot of fans should keep an eye on Danila Yurov, who is coming out of Russia, really good sniper, really good skater, going between the MHL and the VHL, should definitely be up for consideration. If for some reason the Devils want to go out of left field, I would go for someone like Ivan Miroshnichenko, because he's a two-way Ilya Kovalchuk 2.0.
Oh, that's going to be hell to say. That's
someone that can really drop bombs.
You could drop bombs, but his name, that's going to give me nightmares kind of thing.
Miroshnichenko.
I'll have to, you're going to have to give me lessons. For anyone who doesn't know, Jersey Joe, he's big on like the KHL. He's big on like overseas products. So for if any of you guys like need help with a name pronunciation, Jersey Joe's your guy. He's helped me a couple of times because let's face it, I say one of the recommendations to play the sport of hockey, you need a confusing last name that nobody knows how to pronounce. So
I grew up with one.
So for anyone
when your last name is Stanislaw and it used to be Stanislavicius from a Lithuanian surname, you could pretty much pronounce anyone else's last name.
So I'm just putting this out there for any of my listeners, watchers, wherever the case might be. If you need help pronouncing a name, Jersey Joe is your guy. So hit him up on Twitter. But Jersey Joe, before we continue, I want to give you the first live read, and it's the only live read this morning. It comes from our friends at BetOnline. So our partners at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's basketball playoffs, MLB season, the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs, fights, and even next year's NFL futures. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sport wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Please remember to gamble responsibly and visit our friends at Locked On Bets for all your betting needs there as well. So let's talk possibly getting rid of that second overall pick. Now, here's my pitch. Okay, look, here's my pitch. Just hear me out for a second. I said in the previous episode, I'm not sure if you listened to it or not, but I said I agree with Tom Fitzgerald in terms of just, I feel as though we're kind of past the point of just using the draft to help rebuild our team. Because if you look at our roster, we have our young baby big three. We have Bratt, we got Heischer, we got Hughes. Those are our young guys set for the future. For the goalie situation, I think we're still rolling with Mackenzie Blackwood. Obviously, we're going to have to see how the offseason shapes out. We're going to have to wait for that to progress. And then we got Dougie Hamilton, and I project that he's going to have a bounce back year after missing like nearly 2 months due to a facial fracture. So when you look at our pipeline, we got Luke Hughes, we got Alexander Holtz, we got Kevin Ball. We got so many other players in the pipeline ready to just come up and make a difference. And they did make a difference towards the end of the season. So, you got Zetterlund, who was able to also make an impact. Boquist was able to make an impact. So we had so many players who were just slept on and under the radar. And towards the end of the season, I even said it in one of my episodes from a few weeks ago. I said, if I'm some of the Devils players, like if I'm Ty Smith, I'm sweating bullets because my job security in terms of being an everyday player next year are not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed. So my overall thing is like, I feel as though that I think we're ready to just try to make that impact and try to move forward.
Well, I mean, the past few years, Tom Fitzgerald has always exercised the right to try and move the first round pick, but he's really trying to like get the appraisal for the value of that pick and where it's placed, but doesn't mean he's going to move it completely. Maybe if you get a deal, you get someone else's first and you slide back, and maybe you get an impact player too. I mean, look at Columbus. They got one of their other picks, and would they offer us Patrick Laine as an impact winger? I mean, look, we have the money to pay him up. He's an RFA. Do the Devils make the move? Maybe not, but it's worth visiting. If you're a GM, you have to make these appraisals, even if you don't make the trade. But at the same time, I think at the end of the day, Fitzy keeps the pick.
see, I just feel as though just explore the options and just see what you could potentially get, because the Devils have so many players that are out the door right now. So PK Subban is out the door. Then Pavel Zacha is projected to be dealt away during the course of the offseason. Jimmy Vesey was signed to a 1-year deal. Mackenzie Blackwood, we don't know what his future holds with the Devils organization. So it's just like, my overall thing is like, look, I know we have the second overall pick, but can we just please, I know this is somewhat controversial. I don't know how many people are on my side about this, but I just feel as though we are past the drafting. Let's find an impact player. We got Dougie Hamilton last year, for crying out loud, to sign a 7-year deal. I feel as though we can win the offseason if we trade away that second overall pick.
I mean, right now, the odds of trading that pick is a lot slimmer now. That
I know, but you got to explore the options at least.
That's why I said earlier is that, the Devils could slide that pick back and get one of Columbus's and maybe get Patrick Laine in that deal. I know Neil Villapiano would like that. I mean, an impact winger like that could definitely help, especially a young guy. I know Fiala, being Swiss, I'm not sure if he's completely
Fiala. That's the name I'm hearing. And it's just like, he's Swiss. So who else is Swiss on our team? Come on.
Nico Hischier, and you have Jonas Siegenthaler.
Yeah, there we go. So let's get Alexander Holtz.
No.
Oh, Sweden. My fault. Sorry. Switzerland. Sorry, I got that confused before. So yes, Alexander Holtz is Sweden, and then Jonas Siegenthaler and Nico Hischier, they're from Switzerland. I'm sorry, guys. I had a little bit of brain fart.
Don't worry, that I caught you.
Thank you. I'm so glad you joined me, because I'm just a little excited right now. But yeah, so why not? And I could have sworn we have another Swiss player as well on our team, but overall it's just like with Fiala, could we be like the Swiss cheese attack maybe? Something like
I would put it this way, like we all have pork, egg, and cheese on a Portuguese roll or a hard roll. Instead, this cheese would be Gruyere in my book. I like Gruyere. And if the Devils did get Fiala, we just add a couple more slices of Gruyere right on that pork roll.
That's an interesting analogy. But now you're making me hungry. But overall, it's just like,
I think a lot of fans will be hungry.
Hey, I'm open for deals. Hey, any restaurants out there, open to deals. Now, my overall thing for the draft lottery is that like I said earlier on in the show, I was really anticipating for the New Jersey Devils to possibly get the 5th overall pick, and I felt as though I was actually kind of hoping for it. Like, would have been cool to get the 1st overall selection, yes, and obviously we got the 2nd overall selection, but I just feel as though it would have been a lot easier for Tom Fitzgerald to let go of that draft pick if it was like number 5 or 7 or something like that, just so, because we drafted number 4 last year and we got Luke Hughes, obviously. And then Tom Fitzgerald even said a couple of years ago, remember when we had 3 first-round draft picks that ended up becoming Alexander Holtz, then Dawson Mercer, and then
Shakir
Muhammedulin. That was the one that was controversial because a lot of people didn't like. There was some other players available on the board, but then Fitzgerald decided to go with Muhammedulin. And I feel as though Mercer, he's had an on and off kind of year. Like, he's had his moments. And then Alexander Holtz is projected to do big things. Shakir Muhammedulin, we've talked about it before. Could he potentially be the next Big Z? Could he be the next Chara? I don't know, but I say his floor right now is Siegenthaler. That's his floor right now. But,
easily.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, keep the expectations moderate for the kid, because I don't want to give anyone false ideas. But overall, it's just like, Fitzgerald said a few years ago that he was willing to trade one of those picks if the price was right. And at that time, I didn't really agree with that. I was like, okay, we don't really Jack Hughes, this was before Jack Hughes' sophomore year. So it's just like, and we all know how his rookie year went. So he was a big question mark. Nico Hischier wasn't exactly like, lighting the world on fire. I think he was an all-star, but, still, it was just like there was some question marks. And then obviously Jesper Bratt wasn't the player he was. And I think we were still trying to figure things out with Mackenzie Blackwood. So overall, I was completely headstrong on not trading away any of those first round picks. But fast forward a couple of years later, I felt like last year we would have traded or maybe been a little more open to trading that 4th overall pick. But since Luke Hughes was projected to fall to us, it was just like not really worth the risk. And I'm sure Jack Hughes did whatever it took to convince the front office saying, you better not trade that pick. I want my brother on this team, kind of thing. So, but now here we are. We got Dougie Hamilton, got Jack Hughes starting to blossom. I think he could potentially be a Hart Trophy winner in a few years, maybe. I'm not trying to put, like I said, but, just putting that out there. He does have the potential to do so someday. And then you got Nico Hischier. He had his best statistical season ever since being in the league, but that kind of gets fallen under the radar due to what Jesper Bratt and Jack Hughes did this season. And then we still got to figure out our goalie situation. But it's just like, I feel like we're in a position now to just trade away that pick and just try to get somebody. But like you said, since we, are in a 1-2 situation, it's just like, it's really hard to do so. But what were your overall reactions when it was announced the Devils would pick 2nd overall?
For me, it was like, it's both good, and you like at the same time you do want to try and trade it, but at the same time I'm trying to be a realist. It's going to be 99% of the time you don't see a top 2 pick dealt away for a completely different asset. It's almost unheard of.
Everything.
So for me, I like our options a whole lot. I mean, I like the list I have, and I'm writing off Shane Wright right now because there's no way in hell that Montreal says au revoir. They're saying salut, bienvenue à bord. They're saying hello and welcome aboard.
I'm actually going to France in a few weeks, so hopefully I pick up some French a little bit. I know it's different from like Quebec, but still, the slang terms are different, but the overall gif of it is still structurally the same.
Yeah, just like in the Walloon region of Belgium, which used to be part of France. Just a small fact for anyone out there. So, yeah, I mean, French is French still, but just a few different words.
But going back to what you were saying, Shane Wright, bona fide 1st overall pick.
For me, if I'm Montreal, there's no way you're dodging him unless you want to be murdered by the Canadian press for years to come.
Okay, here's a question I have. I don't think we've touched on him, but what about Logan Cooley?
Logan Cooley is one of the best centers available, and to me, he reminds me a lot of Trevor Zegras in a way with the stick handling. He is one of the best Selke candidate rookies in my book in this draft class, and he's part of that USNTDP program that really exemplifies it. And he actually has one of the top star probability percentage to be in the NHL. And I really would think that if any team wants a center, they get him.
But like we've established, we don't really need him. I was just putting that out there because he was also talked about during the draft lottery, and that was just something I want to put out there. So overall, Joe, I think didn't you also have some more stats you wanted to share, because you are my stat guy in this
So
game.
yeah, I mean, we talked about Logan Cooley. So he's got a 79% out of 100 to become an NHLer, and 56% out of 100 to be a star player. And that could only grow over time. Now, we look at Danila Yurov. He actually has a 7% star probability. and an NHL probability 74%. Shimon Nemeth actually has the highest at 94. So if anyone's looking for a safe pick, Shimon Nemeth should actually be going first overall. Hot take.
Oof.
That's my guy.
Oof. I hope no one from Montreal is listening to this episode because they're going to disagree with you.
Well, if they disagree with me, they can curse me out in French. They can curse me out in French. But I honestly, here's my draft board. I have Shimon Nemeth as our first selection. Our second selection, why? Because we need right-handed defensemen and we need wingers. And Joachim Kemel is the kind of guy you want playing with and without the puck, and he's coming out of Finland. And the Devils have a really good scouting staff in Finland. So I would go with someone like him, even though he's like 5'11", but he still has a 33% chance of becoming a star, but that can only grow over time. Because some guys over the years in the NHL, they've only proven to be better as they grow. So there's no need to, rush because the Devils have so many guys. But I would be willing to move a guy like Ty Smith to make way for a Shimon Nemeth or a David Juracek. But if you want to win in the playoffs, you got to have a guy like a Shimon Nemeth in your top four for your right-handed defenseman. And
so
someone to succeed Dougie Hamilton over time.
So Nemeth, according to tankathon.com, is projected to go number 3 to the Coyotes. They got the 3rd overall pick, right?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah. Nemeth is projected to go number 3, and the Devils are projected to get at number 2, according to this website, Slavkovsky. That's how you say it?
Juraj Slavkovsky. He's the Slovak winger.
Yeah. So Slavkovsky is projected to go number.
He's my 3rd.
He's your third. And then obviously we got Shane Wright at number 1.
There's no way he's going to us. There's no way.
Not unless we trade up. No, I'm joking.
No.
Major troller. Do not take what I just said seriously. Please do not take what I said seriously. I'm just messing with my buddy Jersey Joe.
I like that little curveball though.
Yeah, no. Never.
Gotta have fun on the show.
That makes no sense. Makes no sense and no way in hell Montreal trades us the 1st overall pick. But there's no circumstance of which that could work.
You'd have to welcome back that lady from the Kokiniemi pick.
Nope, not happening.
That's the best gift of all time.
I'm good. We don't.
But honestly, look, I mean, going back to what Ray Shero did, he did what was already done in Pittsburgh, which was you had Crosby and Malkin, and then they added Jordan Stahl, and then they just filled out everything else over time on the 4th line. And the Devils have that at center. Not many teams can say that when they're on the up, when they're, that low in the draft. But hey, the Devils have a really good need for, like I said, the right-handed defenseman and the wingers. Then they do centers. But you still got to draft the best player available. But I'm still open to trading the pick, but you got to weigh both options. You can't, lean one way or the other.
See, I talked about in the previous episode as well, which is if we get the 1st overall pick, we're kind of forced to draft someone like Shane Wright. And now that we have the 2nd overall pick, we're also still in that same situation, which is you kind of have to draft the best person available. Otherwise, you're going to get scrutinized, which is why sometimes being the top 3 pick in the draft or top whatever isn't what it's cracked up to be. Unless you're like, unless you were like the Buffalo Sabres last year or the Montreal Canadiens this year, which you really have little to no room to be complaining because you'll take all the help you could potentially get because you need help in all sort of aspects. But for the Devils, I don't know the situation for a lot of other teams, but I know the situation for Devils, which is we're an up and coming team. We have our established young big 3 and we have a lot of potential. And I think a lot of people just don't see it. The casual fan doesn't see with what Jonas Siegenthaler or Ryan Graves can potentially do. They don't see the capability that the front office has to just try to mesh this together. They don't see the potential in Lindy Ruff. And by the way, Barry Trotz, I'm sorry, man. That made no sense.
You want to know something? I would like to see Trotz more like a special teams coach for the Devils, if that made any sense. I mean, it'd be a huge upgrade over Nasreddine.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, the Devils have a lot of, like you said, they have the puck in their end, and Tom Fitzgerald has a lot on his plate, a lot of good things on his plate to do. And I mean, I know the Devils just won the second overall pick. They should be, like you said earlier, looking to move Zacha, move Ty Smith. I would also plan on moving Kuokkanen and possibly Andreas Janssen.
Kuokkanen is another player who should sleep with one eye open in terms of his job security, because it's not guaranteed. Like, I know he was injured for a good chunk of the year. I'll give him that. But, when you're injured and then when you come back and you're not really playing up to par and some other players are, you're not really safe, buddy.
No, look, this is the NHL. No one is safe unless you are an established player or players or core group. Now, given the fact that Ty Smith underperformed, I have more belief with Muhammad Doolin over in Utica and likely going to join in preseason and stay in North America. I mean, he's here because he wants to win a Stanley Cup with the New Jersey Devils. I would not trade him away. I would keep him.
I get what you're saying, and I'm really excited to see what the future holds for the Devils in terms of this draft, because obviously there's a lot that can potentially go right for them, but there's also that issue we got to look at all possible avenues here. And I want fans to not be so close-minded, if that makes sense. Just say look, if Tom Fitzgerald says he wants to trade the first round pick, just saying maybe he has a direction, because so far I think Tom Fitzgerald and the front office has done a pretty decent job of just trying to take our organization to the next level. But the one thing is we don't need to just keep relying on the draft to bring us new help or things of that nature. And but at the same time, it's just we don't want to put ourselves in an unfavorable position in the future either, because if we do trade away that pick and then that pick becomes an all-star, and then we're still stuck in purgatory or whatever the case might be,
right?
Then we're going to be looked as idiots, because we've been mediocre since 2012, quite honestly. We made it to the playoffs in 2018, but we got essentially swept. We lost in 5 games.
Yeah, well, here's what I'm thinking. The Devils got that fourth, what was it, a fourth or something for they traded Tommy Kerbers that ended up being Scott Niedermayer. I don't want the Devils to end up just trading a first rounder and having that happen to us. And then we look back at it, 10 years from now and be like, MF, you know what I mean? I do not want that to happen. This is why I said to you, I'm leaning 99-1 in the Devils keeping it, but at the 1%, they're going to do their due diligence and trying to get, value for the second overall, but I still have my doubts of it getting moved at the end of the day. I just think within the 3 minutes of Montreal making their first selection, it's very likely every other simulation the Devils are going to end up making a pick.
Okay, so according to Alex Chavancy, he projects that Slavkowski is going to be picked up by the Devils. That's his prediction, but he says he can't confirm that, but it seems like that's the most obvious one. So
I would be happy with that.
Yeah, Slavkowski potentially coming to the Devils. That's what Alex Chavancy is projecting, but we'll just have to wait and see. So Jersey Joe, we pretty much have been talking about everything. We talked about our reactions to the draft. We talked about our overall opinions as to what the Devils should do with it. You say that it's more likely they're going to keep it. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that maybe they should just trade it just to see what they could potentially get, like, test the waters just a little bit. And then we talked about some potential players that could come to the New Jersey Devils. And, you said defense, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, quite honestly. And, we don't need like Slafkowski. We don't need we don't need all like these players. We just need to take our organization to the next level, and maybe sometimes look at the draft isn't the best option. So Shane Wright,
I think is the best avenue.
Shane Wright, Logan Cooley. It's just like, yeah, nice and all, but it's just like, do we really need it?
I mean, at the end of the day, let me be honest with the fans and any listener. I mean, this is why you have like, your business analysts, and then you're looking to see what's the best value, whether you want to move that asset for another asset, or eventually you end up keeping it because you think at the end of the day, it makes the most sense for your business model. Right now, I think the Devils end up keeping it, which I think is the most in my core belief right now.
Yeah, it's the most likely scenario. I'm not denying it.
I'll jaw drop when I see them come up and Commissioner Bettman says, we have a trade to announce at number 2.
Oof, we'll see what happens. And that's in July.
And if that happens in July, then I'll go out there on Twitter and admit I'm wrong. But
I do that
at the end of the day, where did that happen to us in the 2017 draft? No.
We'll see what happens, but it's going to be very interesting. So, Jersey Joe, do you have any final thoughts?
I say everyone follow us at Locked On Devils, and I'm over at Heads Up Hockey. I'm here to let you know who we think is best and what situations we believe in. But, subscribe to Trey here on YouTube. You can find me on YouTube as well at Heads Up Hockey as well. I plan on, releasing my list of possible picks. And if you want to give us criticism, make sure it's, actually fair.
Respectable. Like, I'm open to criticism. I'm open to debate, but please, come at us with respect. I couldn't say that better myself. So everyone go follow Jersey Joe on Twitter. Go follow his podcast, Heads Up Hockey. Does a wonderful job. He's a friend of the show, Locked On Devils. So Jersey Joe, thanks for taking the time to give your draft reaction. And we apologize that we couldn't go live on YouTube yesterday. But unfortunately, Restream sucks. It didn't give us. It didn't help us with the connection.
It sucked like Elaine Nazardine and Mark Recchi's job on the line.
Well, Alon Nazardine, in fairness, they just didn't renew his contract. He wasn't technically fired.
I mean, Recchi was the worst.
Recchi was fired. Nazardine just like, we're not renewing your contract. So technically wasn't fired, but I think if he was under contract for a couple more years, I think he would have been.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I will say this. People, keep your heads on straight and just don't go at each other on social media in a negative way, especially with the draft. We should be happy at the end of the day. We have a more competent hockey operations right now, and things are going to improve. And, this core is only going to age like a really good Gouda cheese.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. And yeah, there you go with cheeses once again. But I think big things, whether they trade it or not, big things are coming to the New Jersey Devils, and we should definitely be happy. So, it may not be the first overall pick, but the second is not so bad.
Nope.
It's not so bad at all. It gives us a lot of options. Aside from Shane Wright, we have all the options to see what could potentially happen. So looking forward to it. So Jersey Joe, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you, Trey. Let's go Devils.